Tonight, Joe Biden reemerges. In his first TV interview since leaving office, Biden defended his decision to stay in the presidential race after that disastrous debate.
Should you have withdrawn earlier, given someone else a bigger chance?
I don't think it would have mattered. We left at a time when we had a good candidate. She was fully funded. And what happened was, I had become what we had set out to do. No one thought we could do. And become so successful on our agenda, it was hard to say, no, I'm going to stop now.
Biden will appear on The View tomorrow. It's something of a media tour as a series
Eastern.
A series of books have raised questions about his fitness for office. Anna Navarro will be there. Anna, are you going to ask him why he stayed? And also, specifically, I mean, he said today, or in this interview, I should say, that he was so successful, it was hard to walk away. That sounds like a lot of hubris.
Look, I have not met a single elected official for whom it's easy to walk away. That's why we have some walking mummies in the Senate still. Look, I think he needs to answer the question, should he have resigned earlier? Should he have run at all? I think the reason he is doing this is because there's books that are coming out that are basically arguing that he was practically brain dead and that there was a massive cover up by his administration. And I think he wants to get ahead of it and respond and put out his version before that happens. I think there's very relevant questions that should be asked. People keep wanting to relitigate and talk about that. And so I think he deserves a chance to give his version of what happened.
One of the things that he did say is true is that I kind of came to that realization after watching the results come in that I'm not sure any Democrat was going to beat Donald Trump. It's something that we were able to reckon with after the election. But the reason being the economy, the headwinds, incumbency, those things were just pushing against Democrats in a way that it would have been very difficult for Kamala Harris or Shapiro or Stein or any.
Somebody who did not have the baggage of Joe Biden would have had a better shot.
Listen,
look, I think it's easy to say, well, nobody could have done it, but he also didn't let her distance herself from him.
I think a couple of things.
He didn't let her do it.
One, I agree with Anna that he wants to probably get ahead of this, and it's better to do it now than in 2 years when we're actually running a Democratic primary. Let's talk about it. Let's get it done. Give the people the answers. And then we're moving on as a party. We're not forgetting Joe Biden, but we need to now then empower new leaders. I do agree with you, Bakari, that it was going to be hard for Democrats to win. The chances would have been substantially better if we would have had a primary after the midterms of 2022, and it would have been an open field. It would not have been a default to the vice president because she was a sitting vice president, because we had everyone says we don't have a bench. We have a lot of people that actually would have thrown their hats in the race. I also think that the vice president in those 100 days, it was almost an impossible task. And the fact that she did not distance herself when people were telling Democrats that they were experiencing pain, and we were saying, look at the facts, which is what this administration is doing right now, but I digress, that when she didn't distance herself, people were like, then I don't want any more of it. And I think those three things all put together is why we're all sitting at this table with Donald Trump as our president.
I agree with you, though. Whoever the Democrat was, you're going to be painted in the Joe Biden way. And we just talked about migrants. I think behind the economy, polling-wise, that was the number 2 issue nationally. Yeah. And Trump, I mean, come on, he was the poster boy for that. And look, he's carrying through. You could talk about, look what he's doing now, and I don't disagree about some of it is just against human nature, and I don't agree with it. But the people who voted for him, that was their number 2 thing, right behind the economy. So he's giving the people who voted him what they want, which is get these people out of the country.
Joe?
Look, I think at some point in the distant future, Joe Biden will join the panoply of American presidents that we have this nostalgic view about. But as long as people who are still voting, who were alive during the president, he's going to be remembered for the 4 I's: illegal immigration, inflation, and incompetence. And I think it's a problem for the Democratic Party.
That was 3.
Illegal immigration.
A double.
I think you're right, though, in the timing.
Yeah.
You guys, Democrats, Democrats, have to have this conversation now and come to the reckoning about why Joe Biden lost and whether Kamala was the right choice. All that stuff has to happen before the midterms. Because if you're still struggling with those questions, you can't put a fresh face on the congressional candidates or whoever you want to see run.
Can I say that Joe Biden coming out and whatever happens tomorrow, it's going to be a great interview by amazing ladies on the show at The View tomorrow. I hope everybody watches it. I hope people watch Joe Biden. But I think Joe Biden
And I hope the Pope doesn't get elected while we're in the middle of that interview.
Well, that was very selfish. But what I will say is that, look, I think that the American political class has gotten too old. Yeah. And I think that there are a lot of young people who are clamoring to be a part of the process that don't have space or opportunity, because we do have this realm of leadership that has been in office for 30, 40 years. And it's so emblematic and reminds me of the black church, who, you don't have a succession plan. You have your pastor who's been there 60 years, and then when he fall out, everybody look around, the church is disheveled, they can't raise no money.
Right. Nobody's giving offerings.
And people stop coming and saying, unless it's Easter.
Go to the same church.
No, vote black.
But I'm just saying, I mean, you see it in a lot of our elected officials on all levels, in the House and the Senate. In particular, I'm not saying we need term limits. I think that's insane, because we have term limits every 2 and 4 years. But people should just retire.
Yes.
Yes, I think people need to hang it up.
Have a softer landing.
Have a softer landing.
This idea that, I can't walk away.
Can we all agree on that, maybe?
No, I
Very,
disagree
very
about term limits. I think, like Anna said, it's too hard for them to walk away. And he's term limited out, but he walked away early. But I think term limits in New York City have worked, and the city counts.
Well, I'm for term limits on a president.
All right, we do have those.
We have those.
Some actors say that they are not going to perform for President Trump at the Kennedy Center next month. Is it petty or powerful? We'll debate.